Welcome back to the Content Area Instructional Strategies Workshop with Southern Utah University. This video focuses on building oral fluency. The goal of this video is to help you describe how fluency is developed and how it relates to the zone of proximal development so that you can be more mindful of integrating fluency activities into your classroom and recognize how important that is. And then we also hope that at the end of this video, you'll have at least one strategy that you could try this week in your classroom to help your students build oral fluency. So here's our keywords for this week. Fluency. Fluency is the ability to speak or write, to communicate or receive language in a rate that is not too fast or too slow, so that we can do it in a way that helps facilitate interaction and communication at a level that is comfortable for the people who are involved in the situation. So that's fluency. Fluency means being able to communicate at a comfortable rate. Automaticity is the idea that we can use language automatically. We don't have to stop and think about how we're going to formulate the language when we want to use it. So automaticity is an important part of fluency. Fluency development helps improve automaticity. And lastly, a word that we've seen before, intelligibility. Intelligibility is the ability to communicate with language in a way that other people can understand us. So this doesn't mean that we're necessarily a native speaker, but it means that we can be understood by our audience. Here's the framework we've been talking about each week, and we've gone through highlighting the language of your content area, and we've discussed both encouraging reading and listening, as well as speaking and writing. Now we want to focus on helping students develop fluency. So now that they know how to do things like reading and writing and listening and speaking with the kinds of tasks that are involved in your course, now we want them to keep practicing those tasks to build that fluency and that automaticity, so that they can also maintain their intelligibility. Let's take a moment here to talk about Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, and specifically relate it to language development. Vygotsky is a researcher who studied a lot of social psychology and how learners improve and learn more. And this diagram here can represent the concept that he presented, which is the zone of proximal development. In the center of our diagram, we have everything that a learner can do on their own without help from the teacher. The outer circle represents things that the learner cannot do. Then that middle circle represents the zone of proximal development, which are the things that the learner can do with help or with guidance. And when we teach students, what we're doing is we're trying to expand these circles so that they can do more and more, and the things that they couldn't do, they now are gaining competence in. How does this relate to fluency? Well, really, those things that the learner can do unaided, those are the things that we need to build the fluency in. As teachers, we need to be there to help guide them through that middle section, and the outer section is too much for them yet. We don't want to focus on that. We want to help them practice the things with help in the middle section, but the things in the middle, those are the things that they are ready to develop fluency in. They know how to do these things. We've taught them how to do it. They've practiced it maybe once, but we want them to build that fluency and automaticity. So that's where we need to identify things that our students know how to do, but they're not fluent in yet. That's what we want to practice. That's how fluency develops. So students need opportunities to develop oral fluency. It's not just going to happen. When we do something with students once, we just can't expect that that's it. They never need to practice it again. Hey, that's great that they've done that. It's great that they can listen to that audio recording, or they can have a conversation with their partner using the vocabulary we've taught them. But just because they can do those things doesn't mean they've really acquired them. They haven't become fluent in them. That's where the fluency practice is important. If we want them to be able to do these things independently on their own going forward, they need to develop that extra practice. So let's talk about some strategies that can help students develop oral fluency practice. One of them is to listen to something multiple times. So the first time we listen to something, especially when it's something in a new a language that we're learning, we have to focus on the language. There might be new vocabulary. We might not be accustomed to the accent of the speaker. There may be new grammatical forms we need to learn. So that first time we listen, we might not even be able to focus that much on meaning. We're just trying to focus on, can we understand the vocabulary? That's our first listen. On a second listen, then hopefully we can focus more on the meaning. What are they talking about? Why are they talking about it? What do we do with this information? Or what's the purpose of this conversation or this listening or video that we're watching? Then the third time or additional times, now we can build our fluency. Now we can listen to it at a rate where, yes, I'm getting comfortable now listening to this accent. I'm comfortable with the speed that someone is speaking. If we try to just do the third time, listening for fluency, and we haven't done the first two, the student's really going to be struggling because they need more time to focus on learning the vocabulary and focusing on meaning. And if we don't do the third time, then they're never going to build that fluency. They'll have made their way through it. Maybe they found the information they needed, but they're never going to be comfortable with that kind of listening activity unless we give them more practice. So we need to do something that they already know how to do, something that where they no longer have to learn new vocabulary. They don't have to learn new meaning. It's kind of the same information, but now we're focusing on their fluency, their ability to listen to something at a comfortable rate for communication. That's listening fluency strategy. Here is a speaking fluency strategy. I call these speed conversations. And usually what I do is I separate students into pairs. And sometimes if my classroom allows, I'll have kind of an outer circle and then an inner circle. And students each have a pair. An outer circle person is paired with an inner circle student. If I can't do a circle, then I do rows. And I just tell students, everyone who's facing the front of the classroom is group 1, and everyone who faces the back of the classroom is group 2. Then I give the students a task. I say, okay, start with group 1. Everyone who's a group 1 student, you're going to tell your group 2 partner whatever the task is. Maybe you have to tell them about your weekend, or maybe you have to describe your friend, or maybe you've got to describe maybe the video that we just watched and you need to summarize it. Whatever the task is, they do it with a partner and I give them a time limit. Maybe it's a complex task. Maybe it takes 2 minutes to do it. I give them 2 minutes. At the end of 2 minutes, then the partner does the exact same activity. I may have them even summarize what their partner did before they take their own turn. Then I say, okay, everyone in group 1, you're going to rotate. Everyone in group 2 stay the same. Now everyone has a new partner. Now I say, okay, the exact same thing that you just did, you're going to do it with a new partner, except instead of 2 minutes, you now have 1 minute. You want to say all of the same things that you said the first time. You just want to do it faster now. Okay. Well, now they've had a chance to think about it. They've formulated their ideas. Okay, they know the meaning, they know the language. Now they're ready to build fluency. And so they do the same thing. One partner goes, then the other partner goes. And if I have time, I'll rotate again. Now they get a new partner. And I say, okay, you're going to do the same thing. Now I want you to do it in 30 seconds, really quickly, but try to give as many details as you did the other times. Now that can be hard to get in as many details in such a short amount of time, but this is a great way to build fluency practice. And because we're not doing anything new, there's no new vocabulary, there's no new meaning, they're just focusing on their fluency. And so that can help them build their ability and their confidence to speak at a more comfortable rate. Now, as students are doing these, I often go around and I listen to groups. And if I notice that there's problems with form, vocabulary, grammar, I might highlight those things in between our rotations. But for the most part, they're just focusing on their fluency practice. Now, practice does take up class time. And when you need class time to instruct, it's great to have some interaction like a speed conversation, but there can be other ways that students can practice fluency outside of the classroom. And some ways to find good websites that have listening practice and tell students go and listen multiple times. And maybe there's a little quiz they can take. But because they're interacting with the computer never gets tired. So they can keep doing the same task over and over again, keep listening to the audio or the video over and over again. But we couldn't do that in the classroom, right? We couldn't spend an hour going over the same short recording because not all students would need that repetition. But when it's with technology, students can repeat as many times as they need in order to build up their fluency. Same thing with recording software. I often will have students, before they can give their final presentation in class, when we have in-class presentations, they have to have recorded themselves multiple times using video recording software and share it with me. Because if they have practiced that same recording multiple times before they do it in class, their presentation will be much more clear. They'll have fixed any problems for the most part with language or meaning and organization. Okay. They'll have more confidence when they're in the classroom, and they'll have developed more fluency. So they'll be able to speak at a more comfortable rate, and their classmates will enjoy the presentation more. So that's something I do regularly. I have required assignments where students have to record themselves and upload it to me. And I don't always get time to listen to all of the recording, but just requiring the students to have that extra speaking practice helps them build their speaking fluency. So I hope this has helped you see some good ideas related to building oral language fluency, and also the importance of building that into your courses. Even if it's not something you do a lot in the classroom, finding ways to help students be responsible for their oral fluency practice in your course, whether it's in the classroom or for homework, is a great way to help them build their fluency and confidence in the language.